I want to give you some tips about getting parts for a step van. Good morning. I'm in Lakewood, Colorado today. Today I'm working on trying to get the last of the furring strips in place for the top 40 inches. It's quite the ordeal because I'm working alone. So I'm trying to use these loading bars to stretch across from side to side and to hold the board in place because I'm dealing with like 8 and 10 foot boards of these furring strips to get them held in place so I can drill the holes and then put the screws in. So this is really a two-person job, and much easier when I was doing this with Doug, because one of us would hold it and the other would just screw and drill holes. It was really easy, but doing this solo, it's taking me about 4 or 5 times as long. It may take me 30-40 minutes just to get one board in place because it just keeps flopping around and just having real difficulties getting this done. So anyway, I will work through it. It will just take a while. Well, all of the furring strips for the upper 40 inches are in, at least all I'm going to do today. It went pretty well. It was a little bit tricky trying to get this loading bar across here and get it to hold the board in place. I kept going sort of wonky. It would have been way easier to do with 2 people, but this is what it is, and it's a good learning experience for me. I put furring strips on the horizontal. I'm editing this video and I realized that I forgot to include my phone call over to Doug. In the previous episode I was having some problems getting the screws to go into the walls for the furring strips. Basically, the solution was I needed to use number 8 1 1/4 inch screws, and I was using much smaller and shorter wood screws. So once I switched over to these other screws and used an 1/8 inch drill bit, everything went perfectly smooth and just fine. So it's just a combination using the right screws and the right drill bit. So I appreciate the help from Doug on solving that. And anyway, back to the episode. Planning on running 40 inches of repurposed wood from this one down here up to the top one. So I don't think I need anything in here. The great thing about this, and the more I think about this plan, the more I like it, is that there'll be just small slats here so I can remove 1 or 2 if I ever need access. If I want to come back and put another furring strip here, all I have to do is pull 1 or 2 of these repurposed boards that I'm going to put in here and pull those out, add whatever I need behind it and put it back in. The same with the electric wiring. The wiring on this is run through channels up here on the top, so there's a little hole on the top that the wires run through along the bottom. So this will be the very last thing to be closed by the ceiling up here, and all this will be tucked under the ceiling. So the sidewalls don't affect the wiring running from front to back. However, if I want to run wires down the front, then I'll tuck them behind here, run them down the wall. And the great thing about running all of my side paneling on the vertical instead of horizontal is if I ever want to run something from top to bottom, all I do is pull out one board, like 2 screws or 4 screws, and then I can access the wiring behind. I think the reason they don't do this in standard vans is because you have curved walls, and it's way easier to run the boards on the horizontal and run them up slowly curving over. And here I've got flat walls, so I can run my boards on the vertical instead of horizontal, so that's going to be way easier. So the next step, I need to go get my wood paneling that I'm going to put in. I'm going to search on Craigslist today for some free salvaged wood that I can use, and then I just need to put everything together. I want to give you some tips about getting parts for a step van. It has turned out to be quite the ordeal. Probably the biggest challenge I have with the step van is just finding parts. If you walk into O'Reilly's like back here or AutoZone over here, they're going to ask you year of your vehicle, no problem, 1995, and then they ask for the vehicle, Grumman Olson step van or Freightliner MT45. Neither one of those are going to come up in their computer systems. So here's my big tip if you decide to get a step van. Find out your part numbers, and once you have a part number, they can cross-reference it and find it much easier. Today I'm trying to track down some front wheel bearings, the inner and outer bearings, and I have 4 part numbers, and this is my 5th auto parts store searching for these, and O'Reilly's over here was able to find it for next day order at no additional charge. A lot of the other places wanted to expedite it and ship it out, special order, I had to pay shipping, all sorts of extra fees. The other tip and advice I can give you is to check with a commercial industrial diesel parts place. They're much more likely to be able to find the parts, at least get the numbers there, and then you can check with these discount places to get a better price. Anyway, so I did track down all of those parts. They're much cheaper. By the way, you can also use an online service called Mill Supply. They're really great for step vans. Almost anything you need, they're the go-to place online. The downside of that is you're ordering online, and it's a lot more difficult to return things, and you have to wait for things to be shipped out to you. But that's the place to go for almost anything you need. In a past episode, which I'll link above, my friend Steve tried to help me twice to pull the front wheels off to look at the brakes and the bearings. First time we weren't successful because the jack wouldn't lift the step van, so I went out and I bought a 20-ton jack. So we used that, and then we found out that his air ratchet wouldn't take off the lug nuts. It just didn't have enough torque. And so Steve recommended that I get in touch with his friend Derek, who is a heavy diesel machine mechanic, and he's located about an hour north of Denver. Derek's a very, very busy guy, and so it's taken a couple of weeks to get an appointment with him, and we've had to reschedule a couple of times. But anyway, so today I am headed up to Fort Lupin, which is north of Denver, about 50 minutes, to meet with Derek and see if he can look at my step van. Hopefully he'll give me some mentoring. I can learn how brakes work and also look at the bearing. I've arrived at Derek's, and he's asked me to drive around to the opposite side, so I'm going to go pull inside to his big bay here. Well, there's some big trucks out here. I'm in the shop now. The guys have asked me not to put them on camera. I just think they're just camera shy, so I want to respect that, let them do their work. I'm going to try to learn what I can and help when I can. I just finished up with Derek and working on my front wheels here. Good news. He said the brakes are fantastic, they're fine, the bearings are fine, and he said what it needed was grease. Apparently there's all these little zerts there, like, I don't know, 6 on the front wheel if I remember correctly, and several over on the driver's side front wheel, and none of them had been touched apparently for years. So I squirted a bunch of grease in there. He asked me to drive it around for a day and see if it changes things. He said it should solve all of the problems. He said this front wheel that was sort of loose just sort of tightened up once the grease was added to it. Anyway, I get to return all of the parts that I purchased and get my money back. Derek was an absolute gentleman, super helpful, very kind, very nice, and he didn't charge me for anything for all this. He said any friend of Steve's, he would help out like this, so I'm very, very grateful. I am going to head back to Denver and just sort of watch this, and then next episode I'll give you an update on what happens over the next 24 hours as I drive it around. But it already feels a little bit better. I don't notice any squeaking while I'm driving, so that's pretty awesome. I'm leaving Starbucks. I just uploaded another video, headed back to my step van, which is parked across the street because their parking lot's too small in Starbucks. I've been looking this afternoon for some sort of wood solution, some panels to put on the upper 40 inches of the walls of my step van. And just a few minutes ago, I found some fence paneling, which is only 10 minutes from here. So I'm going to go hop in the step van and go check it out. I've arrived at the house. Over here is the fencing, so it looks pretty good. I think it will work perfect for my purposes, so I'm going to load up some panels. That was much more difficult than I expected. It's almost impossible to lift these giant panels by myself and get them loaded into the side door of the step van, navigating through everything and get them back here so I can secure them. I have it secured with a loading bar against the side there. I'm going to take them back to Becky's house and see if I can find somebody to help me unload them, and then I can pull them apart and start working on them probably tomorrow, because this pretty much wiped me out today. That's all I have for this episode. Thank you for watching. Savor the moment. See you next episode.